You're not live. You're recorded this time. Anyway, I today want to talk with you guys about what's going on in the debt world. The banking world is smothering itself in corporate debt, in real estate debt, in commercial debt, in a loans or bonds in which they've taken out in the previous 2-3 years in particular. They are upside down. This is not good. I used to say 2 years ago, I had this idea, which I thought was brilliant at the time. Okay, we're at negative interest rates. Why don't we, well, the Fed was at negative interest rates. Why don't the people of the US who owe the $30 trillion, okay, why don't we refinance our debt right now? All of it. At a negative interest rate, which would mean that they would owe us a percentage of $32 trillion annually. We would not have to pay payments on it. Do you know how many people I asked that question to that actually kind of you would think would know, and they would just scratch their head and go, well, that's just stupid, Alan. Who would do that? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't we do that? We owe them now that's a positive interest rate. We have to pay them, right? We have to pay them every month. Anyway, it's just one of those things that's like crazy. Who's looking out for our best interests? Is Jay Powell really looking out for us? Come on, buddy. That's simple math. We should all have that one figured out. So debt is something that all of us live with. We've all accepted it. We understand it. And much of the debt in which we carry or we create is good debt, really good debt. You can ask anybody that borrowed on their home on a 30-year loan 2 or 3 years ago when they were at 3% interest rate. They're looking at that loan going, that's great debt. You kidding? Boy, I like that. Compared to what? 7, 7.5, 8 now, maybe even? So good debt makes money. Bad debt is not anything you and I want to get involved in, because once you get upside down, like it seems like we are right now, because we're paying $1 trillion annually in debt. That's absurd. That's those interest payments annually, like I just said, 2 or 3 years ago, should have been zero. We should have zeroed that account out, right? Anyway, good debt, bad debt. Who has debt? Why do you have it? Well, you need things. We all need things. Keeps the money flowing, keeps liquidity, keeps everybody buying stuff, and it's good and good. So debt can be a good instrument. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? We need to borrow a little money in the future to get the nice things that we would like today. Okay. What has debt in it? The US dollar is created with debt. It only has debt in it. Every dollar that's ever been created owed money. You owe money. If you borrow $1 at a percentage of interest rate, you owe $1.03 back. So now you have to create more money to pay for the first dollar. I know many of you already know that, but the issue here today is I want to talk about what has debt, why it has debt, and what doesn't have debt, which is very important to where our lives are headed. What doesn't have debt? Gold doesn't have debt, does it? Land that you own has debt. Even after you've paid the mortgage on it, it still owes taxes. That's debt. That's a debt you will never get out from under, okay? So gold doesn't have debt. Silver doesn't have debt, okay? Unless you borrowed the money to buy it, which is probably on leverage, is probably not the best way to buy gold, but a lot of people do. But if you own your gold, you own your gold, okay? You know where I'm going with this. What else doesn't have debt? Crypto doesn't have debt. So now we have a banking system for 1,000 years has been created upon building debt, creating debt. You owe something because I gave you something. That whole concept in the future could be gone, could go away. I know what you're thinking. Well, I'm not just going to loan my neighbor something without getting something in return. That's true. But getting something in return can be anything, not just more money, more digits. It's going to be very difficult to create debt with cryptocurrency. It's not impossible. They're going to try and do it with CBDCs, and they currently do it right now in many different ways, but Tether creates debt in its own way, but it doesn't settle. What I mean by not settling is it doesn't settle up at a point of, it's always level at dollar denomination, but that denomination value changes constantly. Okay? So when you borrow out into the future with Tether, you're still in trouble. Your number's going to change. It's going to fluctuate. You're going to owe a different amount than the amount that you had at that moment in time. Today, we're going to talk about the value of why non-debt instruments are going to be the future and how incredible they're going to be for you and I. See, even when you have shares of Apple stock or whichever, Amazon, whichever one you would like to talk about, that has debt associated with it. It owes something. It's sort of like the US dollar. It's like, does the dollar in your hand actually, is it free and clear of debt? No, it's not, is it? That dollar that you own in your hand still, to get to zero, would have to pay 30 trillion of them back. So in other words, its intrinsic value, real value, is minus $30 trillion to get to zero. That's absurd. That's incredible. It's crazy. So when you look at every share of stock, it's in the same boat. It has problems. It has debt. It has payments it owes. It bought a new factory. It bought a new robot. It bought new facilities. It paid new pensions. It did all of these things that created more debt that is associated to that share of stock in which you might own in, let's say, Amazon. Amazon owes to pay off all those buildings, to pay off all those delivery trucks, to pay off all those employees' pensions. That is settled on your share. Your share, before it becomes profitable, has to be paid all debt. That problem is that you own. We used to evaluate companies by its value beyond its share value. In other words, it's stock value. What is it? Well, if you sold everything and got out from underneath all the debt, what would the share actually be worth? Okay? That's what I'm talking about. To get to zero even, you're going to have to pay a whole lot of bills before you figure out how much it's worth. Just like no matter how much of your home you own, let's say you've been paying on it for 20 years, you still own principal on that loan, and that loan has to be paid because you haven't finished paying that before you get to collect what money you've created in equity on top of that. What doesn't have that? Gold, silver does not carry that burden upon it. Crypto does not have any debt. There's no debt involved in it. Sure, you can borrow. You can trade it on leverage. I don't recommend it. You can own it on leverage. That's becoming more difficult because of what they've done to the on-ramps and off-ramps of being able to do that. But I would not recommend that to anyone. So, how easy would it be for our system to go from a debt-based to a non-debt-based system? Well, what we're going to understand, and the beauty is the little people of the planet, which you and I are, and we've already figured out that I like this instrument because when I own a home, I have to pay the mortgage every month. I have to pay the insurance, I have to pay the gardener, I have to pay this, I have to pay these things. But when I own crypto, I own it. It doesn't have any debt burden strapped to it. It doesn't have any obligations. It doesn't have any employees. It doesn't have anybody calling in sick. It doesn't have to be upgraded. It doesn't have to be repainted every 3 years. It simply sits there and holds value. This is incredible. This is just like gold. When we understand, when we can get the people in this financial system to, I know they're coming to grips with this, and they are getting there. but they still like playing their old game because the old game is so much easier for them because they hold the purse strings of the interest and who has to pay the debt payment to them. But in the future, you and I are not going to have that burden put upon us, because not only are you going to own the coin, you could obtain the coins, and those coins can pay you monthly interest for said earning of them, yet they're not going to have any debt associated with them. So whatever you get from staking or mining in your coins or your tokens is yours to spend, yours to keep. It doesn't have to be painted. It doesn't need new carpet every time the renter moves out. All of these are very incredible, and for the first time in an investment platform, amazing. DeFi is not dead, guys. It's here, and we're going to use it in the future. It never failed us, okay? This is one of the areas in which I really prefer crypto over precious metals, is the DeFi sphere network, in which it didn't fail. They just don't like it. They want to use it for themselves. I've talked about that in the past in other videos. And what I think they're going to do with the DeFi network is they're going to create all the bond networks, and they're going to throw the bonds on DeFi. And it's going to kick the can further down the road because all the bonds are created on debt. Debt is the glutton slowing the system down right now. It's not allowing the system to thrive and run cleanly because everybody's concerned about making the payments and getting back down to zero, which is not really what they want. They want to create more and more debt, because when you don't have enough debt in the system, it slows it down. But why? Why does it slow it down? Because when you pay all those loans off, you create deflation. Deflation is not what the Fed wants, because they're in the business of loaning money and collecting interest for the 13 families that own the central banking systems. So that's not what's in the Fed's best interest. However, it's in our best interest to learn more about what I'm just talked about. If any of that rings any bells with you, and if you like this kind of content and you like what I'm doing on this channel, please like and subscribe. We are having so much fun with it, and I hope you got something from that. I will see you soon. Can you hear the bees humming? That buzz. It's in the tree just above my head. It's the sound of nature, the pure essence of the energy that we all have in us. Perfect energy, pure love, coming to all of us who accept it. Take a moment today and remember how blessed we all are. Love y'all.